Pokemon Horizons is the worst Pokemon anime. What's happening, guys? The name is Burst, but you can call me Rawson. And welcome to Critical Hit, the channel where we take deep dives and analyses into the world of Pokemon. If you enjoy videos like these, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as join the Bravasagi Discord server where Pokemon anime discussion is in abundance. To start off, let's do a bit of a recap. Alright, so Pokemon Horizons focuses on a main group of characters, typical of a Pokemon anime. The star of our show is Liko, a young girl yearning for adventure inspired by her grandmother Diana. Now, you may be thinking, Rawson, what about Roy? And that's a good question. What about Roy? One of the biggest problems with Horizons is that despite being advertised as another dual protagonist story similar to Pokemon Journeys, Liko and her tale is very much the focus of Horizons' plot. Even during pre-release, the marketing had a very odd lack of Roy and instead put more focus on Professor Freed and Captain Pikachu. Now, if you may remember, a similar problem also happened in the first half of Pokemon Journeys, where the writers really didn't seem to know how to have a good balance of focus between Ash and Go, and Horizons is really no different. Unlike any other series of the Pokemon anime, it actually takes 4 whole episodes before we even get introduced to Roy, and most of the main story beats are set in motion from Liko's perspective. 41 episodes later, and this unfortunately still holds true. While Roy has gotten pieces of development and screen time every couple episodes, his focus is largely put on the back burner. One of the biggest moments of Horizon's first part was Roy's capture of Watro. The method of capture and the story build-up to it had a lot of emotional weight and felt very similar to several capture stories from the previous anipoke series. However, that was episode 14 of Horizons, and 27 episodes later, Watro has largely been forgotten about, barely participating in any battles or making appearances in general. Now, in regards to overall progression as trainers, both Liko and Roy, but especially Roy, have been fairly stunted. There are no points of progression that the duo can aim for, as neither are doing gyms, contests, or anything else to give them the means to improve. Moments of training will be scattered, but majority nothing really comes out of it, and this has worked as a detriment to our protagonist. With 41 episodes into the series, Roy has not won a single Pokemon battle against any other trainer. On the contrary, Roy has actually lost a grand total of 11 times, both against other trainers and wild Pokemon. On the other hand, Liko has only ever been defeated 3 times. Liko's, of course, she started out as a trainer before Roy, so it makes sense she's a lot more battle savvy, but the problem is with how little they train in general, Liko still trains less than Roy does, but still holds out a massive advantage over him. At the same time, Liko actively does not care for competitive battling and battles strictly for the fun of it, which makes her competency all the more confusing. Speaking of Liko's ability, her ability as a trainer is one of the most confusing angles of her character. Going back to episode 1, Liko trains with Sprigatito after school, and by episode 2, it's very heavily implied from Liko's dialogue that Sprigatito's powerful Leaf Edge was a result of her hard work. This is pretty amplified in episode 20 when Liko trains with Kabu and is capable to get Sprigatito to use different variations of Leaf Edge. Now, usually these technical uses of moves are given ample time in training episodes, or at the very least said to have been accomplished off screen. However, in this case, there really isn't anything. And in reality, Liko and Sprigatito are naturally just able to do these things. So Liko must be a pretty talented trainer if that was the case, right? Well, in episode 40, Sayonara Sprigatito, Liko learns of the backstory of Sprigatito, and the caretaker informs her that the strong Leaf Edge that Liko assumed was the culmination of the training was actually just a variation of the move that Sprigatito could always use. Uh-oh. So, after 40 episodes, Liko and Sprigatito's supposed progress is basically retcon, and it's turned out Sprigatito is just naturally a strong Pokemon. Usually this wouldn't be a problem, as we've seen plenty of times of characters that to have Pokemon that are just strong to be strong. But in the case of the main character's partner, nah, this has no precedence. So when it came to Ash and Pikachu, Pikachu was always noted as a pretty special guy. But its battling prowess was never anything to write home about in the beginning. Through juicing up Pikachu through a generator overnight, Ash and Pikachu were able to power up Pikachu's electric moves to be able to fight against Brock. That sort of unorthodox training method is what Ash was known for and what he would eventually develop over time, and as the years go on, would eventually lead to him becoming the world champion, with Pikachu being the legendary slayer that we know it to be. A sense of natural progression was always apparent, but when it comes to Liko and Roy, along with their starter Pokemon, any grasp of growth is basically non-existent. It's hard to argue how much Liko and Roy have changed since stepping onto the ship, if at all. There isn't much to be invested with these protagonists because they don't really do anything to warrant getting invested in. Now, let's talk about the biggest major blight for Horizons. The battles. One of the main essence of Pokemon and the Pokemon anime in general are the action-packed battles that we've been treated to for over 25 years. When Horizons was first announced, a particular name stood out to everybody in the staff list: Tetsuo Yajima. Yajima-san is an infamous figure in the anipoke community as the head director of Pokemon XY and Pokemon XCs. Yajima-san's role as the action director in an entirely new role created specifically for him brought out a well of excitement from the community. And finally, when episodes 1 and 2 of Horizons aired, it was very apparent that Yajima's legacy from XY would continue into Horizons. However, after the initial grace period, less and less battle-focused episodes were appearing. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some outliers like Roy versus Brassius or Liko, Roy, and Dot versus Spinel, but otherwise, the focus on battles, one of the biggest angles of Pokemon, really just began to die out. As I already noted, Liko has been clear that she's not interested in competitive battling, a bombshell revelation that definitely raised some eyebrows. Immediately afterwards, however, we were greeted with a two-part clash with Galarian Moltres, but what was supposed to be a hype battle where the group worked together to take down an overwhelming force turned out to really just be a glorified intervention, where the method of taming Moltres was simply to make it feel good through Sprigatito's aromas. While the explorers were teased in a clash with the RVTs in the Galar mines, it was just that, a tease. The Freed versus Amethio battle was off-screen, while Liko and Roy didn't even get a chance to fight Zerakonia because Captain Pikachu came to stop the party. Now, this is a big repeating trend in Horizons, where instead of the kids being able to solve their own problems with their own might, they are instead told to just sit back, relax, and watch Captain Pikachu basically obliterate all their foes. And if Captain Pikachu's not able to seal the deal, then one of the hero Pokemon Liko has collected will handle the job instead. Major conflicts are always reduced to whether or not Minato Namikaze, aka Captain Pikachu, or a hero Pokemon arrives to the battlefield first. This once again hammers in the stunted growth for our heroes, as well as any sense of stakes or urgency for the story. And when it comes to growth and just overall exposure and screen time in the show, this problem really extends to the whole extended cast. The Rising Voltacklers are the main group of heroes that we follow, and the Explorers are the main enemy group that we are at odds with. But neither faction, however, get anything close to the focus that they deserve. Instead, the members are shoved to the side, and in their place, the main members, Liko, Roy, and Amethio, are put in the forefront. Unfortunately, a dynamic for these characters barely exists, and most of the time, the extended cast join the plot solely as a peanut gallery for commentary and anything else. The explorers especially get dealt a bad hand because of this, especially when coming after the reoccurring Team Rocket trio. While the main admin of the explorers is Amethio, he gets as much focus as the average rival character before being pushed back into the void until his next chance for relevancy. The two aides he have, Zer and Konya, suffer even more as they fight for screen time, or in Zer's case, a chance to even be acknowledged. No, instead the explorers, the main antagonistic force, are treated as mere roadblocks and kind of like stepping stones for the heroes. If the explorers ever even mistakenly assume that they have the upper hand, they are immediately shut down by a hero Pokemon or the god of Pokemon Horizons, Captain Pikachu. Instead of any real unique circumstances to slow the story down, the cast are largely just goofing around or dealing with reoccurring ship problems. Normally, this wouldn't be too bad, but Horizons has really built a story that is completely self-contained. So when there are breaks in between major plot threads, you would think these episodes would be used to flesh out these characters or just add more world building to the setting, right? Nah. Anime-only locations and characters are in abundance, and any sort of focus on game-related characters, locations, or just content in general is just not there. Nimona, one of the biggest characters from Scarlet and Violet, got a very small role in her debut episode 30 episodes ago, teasing a future rivalry with Roy that just has never been acknowledged since it happened. With only 40 episodes under Horizon's belt, the cast are already more than halfway done with their goal, and yet it doesn't feel like any real progress has been made beyond the initial recruitment. Roy's goal of battling Freed and Charizard has at this point been forgotten about. The hero Pokemon never get acknowledged outside of the recruitment episodes for the next hero Pokemon. And no one even knows what Zer's name is, and we still are trying to figure out what's the deal with the old man. Now, in terms of what a Pokemon anime should be, opinions can and will definitely vary. On one hand, there are people who want to return to form similar to Ash's old series, and on the other hand, people want something new and fresh to hook them with. But then there's me, who understands both sides while at the same time a big fan of the web series and their takes on the anipoke formula. Horizons is in an odd position, with the lack of any real ties to the games and thus a lesser focus on previous series highlights like battling and catching. The show as a whole feels very disconnected as a Pokemon anime series. Even in regards to the OST, the show has been very underwhelming. The main composer, Konish, has done masterful work on the web series OSTs, but with Horizons, there's little to no renditions of the game's OSTs that the previous series were known for. With a mishandled cast of nobodies, a strong disconnect from the games, and protagonists that you just have to struggle to sympathize with, what exactly does Pokemon Horizons anime offer for Pokemon anime fans? The current state of the anipoke community has really just been dire in 2024, with any sort of coverage of Horizons barely even being there. With that in mind, what can Horizons do to bring back the fans? Is bringing Ash back really the only option? Well, no. After 25 years and achieving a major milestone, Ash deserves his retirement, and we should wish the best for a character that we've been growing up with for the past, I don't know, however many years you've been watching the Pokemon anime. We should be proud that he's passing the baton to a new generation. However, if the new generation fumbles the baton pass, what can they do to recover? The upcoming episodes of Horizons, episodes 41 to 45, look to be setting up to the conclusion to the second part of the series. Unfortunately, without any major spoilers, the overall plot is looking to be the same as what we already seen before in this series just a mere months ago. Pokemon Horizons is just sadly not a good Pokemon anime. And it really pains me to be unable to foresee a future where the series can truly shine once again. But to end on a little bit of a lighter note, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me spiel about Pokemon Horizons and why I think it is the worst Pokemon anime. Now, I don't particularly hate Horizons. I just see a lot of untapped potential that can really, truly make this show great. And as of right now, it's just not in the position where it's very interesting, to say the least. But in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys come back for more, because we'll be putting out content every week for the next month. Catch you guys next time on Critical Hit. Peace.